how he used to be one of the best singers in the church. They tell you kind of stories like my grandfather was a school teacher. I never knew that till I was a grown man. He was a school teacher. How can this be? You know, you think, how can this be? How could he be a school teacher? But that's what he was.
What was your grandfather's name that was a school teacher?
George Myers. My grandfather, George Myers.
That was your father's father?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Where did he teach?
This I don't know. My oldest brother's dead now, and he used to stay with them. I want to talk about him a little bit. Emory Myers. He was named after his uncle. My dad had a brother named Emory Myers. When he was young, he had polio. He was crippled. And there was so many of us that he went up to Grandpa's house to stay when he was young. And Grandpa made him read. When he was 6 and 7 years old, he was reading. And that's something that stuck with him. When I come along and I was young, he had come back from out in Indiana where his other grandmother lived. That'd be on the Simpson side. And he'd come home and stay with us instead of staying with Grandma. I want to say he was 18 years old, up around there somewhere. And he had become an Eagle Scout in the Boy Scouts. He was a very interesting person to me. And I can remember, excuse me about this. And I can remember him doing all kind of experiments. And he'd have us kids doing this. And I always remember my brother having books and reading all the time. He's a very interesting guy. I never knew that about him. Where did he get this from? He said, Grandpa made me do this. And he said, Grandpa was a school teacher. Oh, I never knew that. Right?
George was one of those people that moved to, you said, to Indiana. You said some moved to Ohio, some went to Virginia, and then some moved to Indiana, I think, when we started out earlier. Where did George live besides Chesterhill?
George come from, my grandpa George come from Barnesville when he was a kid to Chesterhill. Sometime in that time when they got over, they moved down to Cutler one time for a year or so, I think. Then they moved back up to Chesterhill. And then from there, he comes to Zanesville.
Okay. And it was George's son, Emory was George's son then?
Yeah, he had a son named Emory.
Okay.
My dad was the oldest and Emory was the next.
Okay, and he was one that had polio?
No.
No, okay.
No. The one that had polio was my brother Emory, not my dad's brother.
Okay. And it was your dad's brother, though, who lived with his grandma Simpson?
No, it was
No,
my
okay,
brother.
I got you.
My brother.
Your brother, okay.
Emory.
All right. Okay.
See, now, let me restate that for you. There were several kids in the family. And Pete, we called him Pete, had polio. And Grandma Myers didn't think that they could take care of him proper, since there were so many kids at the house, so they come down there and took him up there. So when he was 6, 7 years old, he was up with Grandpa Myers, Grandpa and Grandma Myers.
In Chesterhill?
No, right up in Zanesville.
Okay. Oh, that's right.
Right up in Zanesville.
Yeah, okay.
So let me see, Pete was born in 1925. So I'm talking about 19, 32, right around there. And they took him up there to live. And Grandpa was a school teacher, and he made him read quite a bit. He wouldn't let him do like a lot of kids that age do, play around outside and play. Of course, Grandpa was quite old then, because he died in 1940 when he died. He was 89 years old. So 40 back to, what did I say, 32? So he was quite old. He didn't want all that noise, I'm guessing. You know, that's what I was told. But, and so he made him read, and this thing was one of them things that stuck with him. And when he come back from Indiana, so when he left the grandma's house, he went out in Indiana to his other grandma. We had a brother that stayed out there. We also had another brother that was taken away from the family by his other grandma, Grandma Simpson. Okay? And his name was Rudolph, and then he was living out there, so that's where Pete went at. And so when he came back home, he didn't go to Grandma Myers' house, he come to Dad's house. And so that's how I become to know him. I knew of him, but I didn't really know him. When he came back to our house, and then later on he gets married, and I can just remember as a kid us doing a lot of experimenting. And I remember him sitting and reading all the time. I can remember that. And after I got old and found out what he was and who he was, I used to ask him, well, how did you ever get interested in that? And he said, well, Grandpa done that. I said, what do you mean he done that? He said he wouldn't. And he told us about he wouldn't let him play and make noise in the house, and didn't get to do much playing outside the house because there wasn't nobody up there to play with. And so he said, I just sat down and read. And that was one of the things that continued clear through his lifetime until he died. He was 75 years old when he died.
When did you get married?
I got married in February of 1959. St. Valentine's Day. I got massacred.
Now, what is your wife's name?
Her name was Ruby Lett.
Okay. Should I coach you on that massacre?
No, you don't put me on that.
Okay. Tell me something about. I need to know the name of your kids.
My kids.
Mm-hmm.
I got married in February '59. I was 17 years old. She was 16 years old. In August of that year, we had a child. His name was Paul Myers, Jr. He's now living in Detroit, Michigan. 3 years later, we had a daughter, Christy Myers. She lives in Dallas, Texas. That was in 62. 62. In 1966, we got divorced, and I can remember Lee's being 7 years old, and she was 4. So that's the children I have with my wife. And since that, I've never been married.
You have any grandchildren?
Yes, a lot of grandchildren. But see, I've had children since that, but I never got married again. So, yeah, I got quite a few grandchildren. I got 11 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren. You don't need to quote this, but I decided then that if I can't raise a family being married, I'll raise them without being married, and that's what I've done. And that's what I've been doing ever since 1966. So, you know, I had children with people. I always believe I don't need anybody to tell me how to raise my children. After that divorce, I decided I don't never need no sheriff to come to my house and say you need to pay support for this child. So I just completely got away from the system, and I paid for my children. Now, you ain't quoting this, are you? I paid for my children through playing in the band, and refereeing sports and stuff, because I'd heard the stories about guys coming out in divorce, and the judge said, you're going to get you a second job. And I said, well, I said to myself, if I'm going to have to get me a second job, I'm going to do what I like. Because I never in my life, in my whole work life, ever had a job that I liked. And so I got into playing this music, and I liked sports, and I got too old to play them, so I got to the place where I refereed the games, the baseball, softball, basketball. And so that's how I raised my children. That's how I paid the support.
How many years did you officiate?
33 years officiating basketball. And, well, I didn't officiate last year. That would have been my 33rd year. And the reason why, the business I am, I worked all winter. And I just couldn't get home and rush in, get changed and go to a basketball game, get done at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night and come home and then get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and go back to work doing what I was doing. So I just didn't take a game. But officiating, especially basketball, I really got interested in that. Now, what you see in these basketball games, with these officials you see out here, majority of them are coaches, principals, assistant principals. See, they take care of their own, but I'm an outsider. So we get what we call the garbage games, the ones that nobody wants to do, okay? Eventually, I built me up a varsity schedule. And some of the things that are very interesting that happens in basketball games, it just take too long to tell the stories. But me and my buddy, when we started this, we vowed that we'd stay together. We were refereeing, this is what caused this. We were refereeing a game, and there was two fellows. One was, both of them little short guys, probably about less than 5 foot tall. They'd been refereeing together for 35 years. And we were up at Tri-Valley High School when we first encountered. Now, we've seen them before we ever refereed. We used to go to basketball games and see them referee games. But they refereed the varsity game, we refereed the reserve game. And a question come up in our game. And we wanted to know about it. And so we asked these guys. Little did we know they were sitting there waiting for us to ask. And they said, well, we are glad you asked that question. And so we're going to tell you. They told us whatever it was. I don't remember what it was. And after that was done, they said, you guys need to stick together. Don't let nobody part you up. And so we vowed to do that. Now, here we encountered a little racism, refereeing basketball, all right? They didn't want to hire two of us, but they'd hire one of us. We're not coming unless two of us come. And so I asked certain people, what's wrong with two black officials? I can take you out on any given night at 100 basketball games, you'll see two white officials. Is there something wrong with two black officials? Well, that started kind of buzzing around a little bit, and the next thing you know, we got our basketball schedule built up. Well, I guess there isn't. So we made that vow, and that went on for many years until he retired before I did. The last 4 years, when they went to the three-person format, and I was out there by myself, and I finally got with a couple guys. But that whole time, he refereed, him and I refereed together. So that was probably 28 years.
What is his name?
Ernie Bynum. He's married to a cousin of mine. He's married to Norman, who he's married to. But,
can you tell me just one story that might have happened to you during your basketball game that you'd like to share with us?
Yes, I can tell you several stories about that, but one of the best ones that sticks in my mind is we were on a college circuit. A lot of other officials around there didn't know it. And